CBS alters policy after administration pressure. CBS News has changed a core practice on its Sunday flagship Face the Nation TV show. In the future, interviews will air only live or unedited. The shift follows days of attacks from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who accused CBS of shameful editing her comments. According to the New York Times, CBS initially defended its edits as routine and released the full interview online. But under sustained criticism from the administration and in the shadow of Paramount's $16 million settlement of a lawsuit with the president, the network reversed course. Media analysts say the move could boost transparency, but it also limited journalists' ability to focus broadcast on the most newsworthy exchanges. Frank Sesno, a former CNN bureau chief, called it, quote, a bad idea on balance, warning that it locks producers into a straitjacket. Critics see a deeper risk. When networks change rules after government pressure, it raises alarms about political influence over editorial judgment and the potential erosion of independent journalism. Okay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What's the real message here? CBS News and its Face the Nation program is going into very dangerous territory here. They've essentially thrown up their hands and said to the world, we're no longer in the news business. We're in the political appeasement business. Here, Trump administration, take a look at what we have. We don't want to do anything that would offend you. Forget our news viewers, forget the public good. We just don't want to offend you. So today, we're not doing what normal journalists do, which is edit interviews and put the newsworthy stuff in. We're going to kind of let you see everything. Tomorrow, maybe we send it to you for pre-approval. And the day after that, maybe we just shut down the whole news network and just run apolitical sitcoms. That is where I think we're headed. So let's dig a little deeper here. At first blush, if you're not in the news business, it seems fair. It's like, well, it does seem fair if you're editing something out of context. Well, guess what? There's never been an interview in the history of the world where you didn't see it live and you saw a newspaper story or you saw a TV broadcast or a radio broadcast that wasn't edited out of the context of the entire conversation. So what this administration is saying, basically, we're going to torture you, media outlet, if you do anything that doesn't make us look great. Anything that criticizes us, we're going to accuse you of doing horrible things. We're going to use the big power of government, the Department of Justice, to put you out of business. And unfortunately, CBS took this to heart in a way that threatens the very core of journalism. So to put this in context, imagine you had to read your favorite newspaper, and a newspaper did this. They were never allowed to quote a politician or a president unless they ran the entire interview. So imagine I'm president of your country, shall we say. And in the course of an interview, I say, oh yeah, starting tomorrow, I'm imposing a 100% tax. And I'm going to come and take your firstborn child and put it in the military, even if they're 2 years old. And then for the next 2 hours, I say how great I am, how good looking I am, and how I have a perfect head of hair. And I just keep saying that again and again and again. And I said all that for an hour. Then I delivered the news, and then I said the idiotic things for the next 2 hours. Using this rule, your newspaper would have to put in 10 pages of my entire comments if they want to put that newsworthy thing in. Now, obviously, that is absurd because the other stuff is just nonsense. But if I'm imposing a 100% income tax and conscripting your children into military service, that would be big news. That's how journalism works everywhere in the world. I say everywhere, almost everywhere. Yeah, there are parts of the world in the Middle East, places dominated by kings and monarchs and potentates and dictators where it's run by the government. Nothing gets out without either being written by the government or being approved by the government. And countries like that generally enjoy very little freedom for individuals. And countries like that, their stock markets generally don't do very well because nobody has trust in public information because it's all being controlled to make some dear leader look good. So this is a very dangerous, slippery slope. And it's not a partisan issue. Think of how much joy Fox News has had over the years, replaying again and again and again the quote that Hillary Clinton said that Trump supporters were deplorable, or replaying the clip again and again and again of how awful supposedly Barack Obama was, saying that people who didn't vote for him like to cling to their guns, cling to religion and guns. So if you're taking this power away from the media, it's not that it's only good for one party. It makes it easier for politicians of any party to really manipulate the public, to have mass control, to avoid scrutiny, and to not be held accountable. So this is why I think anyone who isn't a full-time stooge or a henchman for a particular incumbent administration has to be extraordinarily troubled by this. Anyone who believes in the concept of free media has to be troubled by this. In the United States, there's been an explosion in the last 30 years of media companies that are explicitly trying to put their thumb on the scale of giving right-wing views more favorable coverage. Okay. It's going to be harder for you to do your work too if you can never quote a centrist politician, which is what Democrats in the United States are, or a center-left politician like a Bernie Sanders, or a true left-wing politician. You can never quote them in a video or audio or their words, or for that matter, text. You're not going to be able to give your readers, viewers, listeners anything interesting to say. So this is a policy where a lot of oxes could get gored. And just because your team is in power right now, you may want to give some real thought as to whether you want this in the long run. So I said it at the top of this story, I'll say it again. I think we're inching down the road where at least the major networks are so fearful of getting punished by the Department of Justice, by frivolous lawsuits, by maybe even imprisonment or worse, that they start to send their scripts in advance for approval to this administration before they run a news story, which takes us to state TV. And then we're not that far away from CBS saying, hey, you know what, folks? We're really an entertainment business. We're about movies, about sitcoms. We're about cable TV and cartoons. So news, it was nice knowing you, but we're just going to cancel it. I really don't think we're that far away from a world where that happens. Not to mention the fact that quality news is expensive. And as we're going to talk about in our next segment, it is harder and harder for any news organization, any serious news organization, to attract enough viewers, to attract enough advertising to make it pay for itself.